Hey guys, J Hood Creative back again. Thanks for stopping in. So, the way I think about things in comic book collecting and kind of some of the stories we share here on YouTube is that we're out there hunting. We're hunting for comic books. Like we're just like a big game hunter, right? So, we're looking for the right book at the right price in the right condition. And sometimes we hit and miss, and sometimes we nail our target. We bring home and we show off our trophies, right? So I'm going to share a shopping story from the last big con I went to, which is the Indianapolis Comic Con. I think I might have briefly shown some of these comics before, but I want to just kind of fill in the backstory behind them. And the reason I'm doing that is just so, okay, hey, so like I've said, I have trouble grading, so I'm going to discuss kind of the grades of these books and see if I can get some feedback on determining exactly what they are. And also, uh, just sharing my strategies and again, failures and successes. I think you'll see both here, and as far as negotiating pricing and things like that. So, so Indianapolis Comic Con is a medium-sized show. It's a nice show, and about a third of the floor space, not even that. It's they've got wide aisles there, which is nice. But of all the booths there, I would say a quarter to a third were comic book dealers. Okay, one of the biggest dealers, and I see him in the Midwest a lot, had a big display space. Virtually, if you went in hunting for something specific, some oddball run filler, something you had to have, he probably had it, and it was probably expensive. For like a dollar book you would find out in any other booth, he'd have it at like $4. Some of his keys were like double what you're seeing at other dealers, things like that. So you had stuff like that. You had uh, several dealers selling unbagged and boarded dollar books. Most of them were out of order, so if you wanted to spend all day going through that, you could. There were two dealers that I really liked. One had a really nice selection of bronze and silver age stuff, moderately priced, and then about a third of his stuff he was selling at half off. So anything I saw in that booth, or that section that anything I saw that was worth taking home with me, I picked it up. That's where I got things like that Jack Kirby, what was it, issue 72 Fantastic Four or something like that for $2. His price sticker price was four. I got it for two. Uh, Another booth had a great selection of say Silver Age, late Silver Age through the Bronze, and a little bit into modern books, and they were all priced in tiers. So we had $5 boxes, $10 boxes, $20 boxes, and then a few boxes that were sticker price, and everything in those sticker price boxes were half off. Uh, I had to, after a while, stop myself and look at what I had in my hands. I could have left all of my money in that booth in that with that dealer. So I put a few things back, so I had extra pocket change to kind of walk the rest of the show and fill out my day. I would have been done about halfway through the day if I had done that. And then there was a couple other dealers I'll talk about. So uh, one dealer that I saw had a nice selection of wall books. He looked a little bit grumpy, um, but his wall books were moderately priced, and I noticed he had two of them that I was looking for. I've been looking for some minor key Jack Kirby work, things like this. Tales of Suspense. This is issue 94, and this is key because it's the first appearance of MODOK. I've been hunting for that since before they made the announcement about the upcoming cartoon with featuring MODOK. And then I've also been looking for this one. This is number 60, Tales of Suspense number 60. The reason I'm looking for this is this is the second appearance of Hawkeye, but that's not why I was looking for it. This has, for my money, uh, Jack Kirby's best drawing of Captain America ever, and that is this one right here. Yeah, buddy. You know what I'm talking about? Chick Stone was the inker on this story, this run of Captain America. He also worked with him early on early X-Men and Avengers. Uh, a lot of people choose Joe Sinnott as their best Kirby inker, or oh, the guy's slipping my mind now. The guy that worked with him through the Fourth World stuff. You know who I'm talking about. Anyway, Chick Stone, I think, gave him what I would consider more of a modern day polish stuff that we're used to seeing today rather than back here in the early Silver Age. Uh, just the level of finish on it, on that just the rendering, the cross hatching, the boldness of the line. It's to me, yeah, you can't get any better as far as Kirby drawing Captain America. Anyway, so he had those two books on his wall, marked at $30 each. I'd been hunting for these books on eBay for about 6 months to 6 to 12 months, and of course my ouchie price of $40. I don't usually want to go higher than that. I was trying to get these at about 30, so his price was about right. Um, so the books I had seen go on eBay, I couldn't get them for my ouchie price. And usually, if they were approaching this kind of condition, and I consider these uh, acceptable to nice condition on the J Hood creative grading scale. Let's see if I can get some close-ups on these. So the edges are pretty nice. Lots of color gloss, or not punchy color. A glossy book. Edges are relatively clean. We don't have a lot of color breaking spine or color breaking creases. Maybe a couple of spine ticks here or there. That's all right. But the whole thing is really flat. I don't see any tanning on these. Page quality. Both of them, in my opinion, white pages. So there's this one. They might have slightly blotty corners. They're not flawless, but like I said, nice and flat. And back cover. So I noticed those books on that dealer's shelf, but I thought, well, I was like, well, I'm keep walking the rest of the show, and I thought if I don't find anything else I like, I'll come back and get them, right? So keep walking through the rest of the show, and I guess my target for the show, things that in my mind, I didn't have anything super specific. I would have been perfectly happy bringing these two books home. But I was looking for Jack Kirby work, Silver Age stuff, Thor, Fantastic Four, and essentially these pieces here, and also Fourth World stuff, especially New Gods 1. Okay, so I found another dealer that had real nice stuff, and there's Silver and Bronze Age, and they had nice wall books. The prices, okay, so my ouchie price is $40. All their prices were expensive for me, but they had stuff I were on my radar. I was asking for Keith Neal Adams Batman work. They had a few examples that um, I I didn't have enough money to buy them at the time, um, but I had brought some books with me to the show that I was considering offering as trades. So I really wasn't happy with the Neal Adams stuff they had. The one thing they had was a Batman 251. They had it at like $500. I was like, yeah, I can't touch that today. Uh, but one of the other books I was really looking for some reason, had gotten on my radar, that was a book that I thought was a really nice book. I wanted it in my collection. Um, it's a key for sure, but it isn't the book everyone thinks of when it comes to this particular character, and that's Swamp Thing. So this is Swamp Thing number one, and this introduces the Alec Holland Swamp Thing. In my opinion, this book is a little bit undervalued. Um, I mean, the first appearance is it's a big boy book, um, but the Swamp Thing in that is it occurred before this book. It introduced the character, but it didn't name the alter ego as Alec Holland. In my opinion, I'm not sure. I'm not a big Swamp Thing fan. I like Bernie Wrightson, and I have all the Wrightson Swamp Things in reprint. I'd read them recently and thought, I need to put Swamp Thing one on my buying list. I have a couple other of the issues. I have the Batman one. Uh, so I asked this dealer. I said, "So do you have any Swamp Thing one?" I just didn't see him offhand, and he had one on the sidewall, and I was like, "Can I see that Swamp Thing one?" And this was the copy. He pulled it down, and so let's go over the condition on this one. Again, glossy, nice color, edges. See if I can focus. Edges are relatively nice. The biggest flaw in it is kind of something happening at that staple. A few spine dings, a few non-color breaking creases on the cover. You can see in the purple area there. Back, cleaner than the front. So they had this at $65, and I didn't have $65. I had 50. So I was thinking, okay, I'll put it back. I'll rethink it. I'll walk a couple other booths and just kind of mull over which do I want. Do I want the Swamp Thing, or do I want the Tales of Suspense? I thought I was in striking distance on both with the $50 I had in my pocket, and I was really torn. I wanted all of it, so I did something that I have historically have not done. Uh, I went back to the booth with the Swamp Thing stuff, or the Swamp Thing book, and pulled out the books I had to trade. I had my full run of Eternals. It's not full. It's issue 1 to, I believe, 17, 16. I believe I'm missing the last two issues of the series and the annual. I had the rest. Issue 1 is a pretty nice looking book. It's in my opinion, would be very nice. Has some pressable defects, maybe some very slanted or very slightly blunted corners. Uh, and I had a nice copy of issue 3, which is the first appearance of Cersei, and the issue 2 I had was it was a crunchy J Hood Creative crunchy grade. Um, Very similar to the condition of this book. So we had a lot of spine stress, the quality of the cover. It's got a lot of, it's very uneven, lots of wear. Is that what they call wear? I mean, I understand wear of like wearing off the ink, but when they say excessive wear, are they talking about like the finger damage on these books? Let me know. And then a lot of uh, color breaking creases like that, really blending corners. So this is very similar to the condition of my issue 2, but issue 2 was a 30-cent price variant. So I had looked that up, and Go Collect says that's worth $95 to $100. So I figured between the first 3 issues, I had about $250 worth, and then the rest of the run, there are a lot of keys in there as far as the Eternals go. but the rest of the run is they're not perfect. They're kind of in between grades. They're not as nice as the issue one, and they're not as bad. Some of them are as bad as this, and others aren't. Uh, so a bunch of mid-grade copies of Eternals, the Eternals run. I also had with me my NYX3, which I wasn't that anxious to get rid of, but the price on the value on it has come down since the Logan movie, so not really a great time to move it. It's got room to grow again if I hold on to it for a long time. Um, I had uh, Malibu Sun 13, which I had been given from a comic book store when Malibu Sun 13 was a thing. Uh, so that cost me no money and was worth between. I thought at the time it was worth about $100. It's probably grown a little bit since then. It's worth about 125 to 175, depending on. It wasn't a perfect copy, and again, with not having a firm handle on grading, wasn't close. It wasn't close to a 9.8. I'm guessing it was in the 7 or 8 range. It had a bunch of spine ticks and uh, dents and things like that, pressable defects. Uh, let's see, what else did I have? I had the Dem Legs cover. This is Atana, was it number 13? Something like that. Um, and it was a nice looking book, but it had little minor like cuts in the ink in certain spots that it wouldn't have hit a 9.8. I'm not sure to hit a 9.6, but other than that, it was nice, flat, perfect. Um, so I decided, okay, what would I be interested in giving up for this Swamp Thing? So I went back to the booth and I said, "Can I see that Swamp Thing again?" And they pulled it down and they said, "Oh," and I said, "Well, would you be interested in trading?" And they said, "Oh, yeah, sure." And we've got some other copies of Swamp Thing, of the Swamp Thing one. I said, "Oh, you do?" And yeah, up in the top on this other wall, they pulled down two other copies, two or three. Uh, One copy was better than the one they had pulled down before. The other two weren't as nice as the other one I'd seen, and I flipped them over. So the first one that I'd seen that I liked, uh, the price on it was $65. These others they pulled down, the rougher ones were 125, and the nicer one was 175. And they had marked on the backing board that the 175 one was an 8.0, and the two lower grade ones were 6.0s. So I'm guessing, okay, the one I looked at was probably a 7.0. So I pulled out the Malibu Sun and the Zatanna book and thought, okay. Uh, so it turns out that this book, the $65 one, was they had like the outfit of this dealer apparently had a few partners involved. Seemed like they had one kind of head chief, a couple other guys working for him, and then this other wall was kind of their buddy. So he was there at the show, and they were showing his books, but he wasn't part of them. So I was either going to deal with him or I was going to deal with this kind of conglomerate. And I'll keep holding the book just for shiny. Uh, so long story short, uh, the guy asks the other guys, okay, what is the Zatanna going for? He didn't know. He didn't know what the Malibu Sun was going for. He had to look it up on his phone. Um, and the other dealer said, yeah, we've got the Zatanna at 60. So I thought, okay, this is a dealer, so they're going to give me 30. And the Malibu Sun I thought was about 100, uh, worth about 100, so they'd give me about 50. And I was like, yeah. So I'm looking at comparing the $65 one to the 125 and 175. I'm like, okay, so this guy, and I think they had talked to this guy. They were like, why is your book so cheap? I heard him like talking about it as I was leaving the last time. And I think what the deal was is the price on the book may have gone up since the TV show. And my interest in the book is not influenced by the TV show at all. I haven't watched it. I don't care. I'm not going to watch it. I just like the book. Um, so uh, I'm guessing price on the book has gone up since he had priced it whenever he had bought it or whatever, so he kind of lost track. So I'm thinking, okay, the guy's got a more valuable book than what his sticker price is. Um, I'm I know it's a dealer, so I know I'm giving up more, and I'm thinking, okay, I like the Zatanna book. I'm an Adam Hughes fan, and I was kind of on the fence of, okay, am I going to start collecting Adam Hughes covers? I've determined I like Adam Hughes, I really do, but that's not kind of the way I'm going with my collection. I'm not going to be a cover hunter. I want the books with the guts. Um, so so he so we settled. He took both the Malibu Sun and the Zatanna, and I got the Swamp Thing. So I came out on the shorter end of the stick on this deal. I really fell in love with this book in the moment. Um, they were interested in my other books. They were going to pay me cash for Eternals and NYX, and I had my Detective 880, and they were going to give me a pretty nice chunk of money for those, just straight up cash. Um, I could have had, in hindsight, I could have traded all that and gotten that Batman 451 or 251. And in hindsight, I kind of almost wish I would have taken that deal. But anyway, so I got that. I still had the $50 in my pocket. Went back to this guy. I had actually heard him on my first trip over talking to another dealer, talking about how bad sales were, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna nail you for that, for airing that out in the open." So I came back and said, "Would you take my last $50 for those two books?" He was already tearing down his booth at that point, and he's like, "Sure." So I walked away with all the books I wanted. My biggest acquisitions of the day. Um, I think I balanced out on that deal. As I was talking to the guy at the Swamp Thing dealer booth, he was interested in my Eternals 2, the variant. And it was one of the books where, as I'm trying to deal, I'm not that interested in Eternals. I want some Jack Kirby work. I'm not super huge in Eternals. I've looked at it, read a little bit, and it's kind of Jack Kirby stuff. As far as story goes, the artwork is stupendous, but I'm interested in the story, and I'm into things like 2001. I'm looking for his 2001 uh, run because I think that's got a lot of his imagination in it. I think in Eternals he's a little bit going through the motions. Anyway, so as I'm trying to value my Eternals run, that 30-cent price variant is kind of throwing off the mix because those price variants are only valuable to a certain collector, and uh, it's not going to appeal to somebody that just wants the whole run. They're not going to pay the extra for that. So he was interested in it. He's like, "Well," and I said, "Well, maybe we could trade for that, and you can just replace my copy." I personally wanted an Eternals issue 2 specifically because it's got the first appearance of Celestials in it. Um, so and he had a stack of them. He had like 8 copies of Eternals #2, and I started flipping through them, and I picked out 2 copies. I said, let's do a 2-for-1 deal. And I picked out 2 copies. And I picked out one that would go kind of with my run. So this is a nice copy, J Hood Creative, trademark nice, or maybe in very, very nice. No serious flaws, couple spine ticks, corners barely blunted maybe, covers flat, back cover's okay. So that one he had it marked at $30. Again, I knew the variant I had was worth about 100, give or take. So that one was 30. They had this one marked at 60, and this was the one I was going to keep for myself. And this is in under the J Hood definitions of conditions. This one is mint. It's a minty book. The only the back cover. The only flaw are the waves you see there at the top. You get that. This corner is got the slightest amount of a ding, and I'm going to handle this gingerly so it can go back straight back into a bag. And I'll hold this one up. I see one little other possible flaw in the cover, but in my mind, with a press, that one is a 9.6 to a 9.8. So I'll hold this decent, nice copy up. So I gave him $100 book. If I press and get the issue 2, the nice one, graded, if it comes back a 9.6, it will be worth $230. If it comes back 9.8, it'll be worth $725. This one, I'm guessing, is I don't know if it's a 7.0 or an 8.0, probably an 8.0 or better. I'm just kind of guessing, you tell me. If it's 8.0, it's worth $65. So if this one's an 8.0 and that one's a 9.6, I've got $300 worth of comics. One I'll keep, one I plan on selling. And as I'm looking at the value on these and my desire to have the first appearance of the Celestials, I'm thinking this is the one I'm going to keep and cash in on the other one at some point. So that's probably something I need to do relatively soon. I need to pick out a few books that I know I want to have graded, sign up for a CGC account, and get some of that stuff cooking so that I have a nice, crispy Eternals #2 ready to go when that trailer hits. So win some, lose some, come out average, on par. I'm not the greatest negotiator. Anything I buy, I ask for a discount on. The worst they can say is no. And I always look for the half price deals. I don't deal with the highest priced vendors. I just leave them alone. I deal with somebody that seems more reasonable. So that's my hunting story for the last Indianapolis Comic Con. Please give me some comments here. Let me know how I did. Did I do better than I thought I did? Did I do worse than I thought I did? What could I have done better? Help me out with my grades. If you want to tag team on a video, and maybe we'll go over some books and see if we can get StreamYard to cooperate to get some nice resolution on looking at a book. We can go over it. So that's going to be it this time. And remember, faith, family, comic books, and we'll see you next time.